maximum, or we were in class from 8:30 to 5:30 today.
Yes, right.
Yeah. I threw down.
What do you call it?
Is he done?
Yeah.
All right. Back to session.
Judge, with the court's permission, may I recall Ms. Muntean for one clarifying question? Thank you, Judge.
I get it.
You okay?
Okay, sir.
Hi, is anyone in the restroom? No, you're ready to step out? You may be seated. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Hope everyone had a very enjoyable lunch and is ready to continue with the trial. May I receive a stipulation of the jurors and present and properly seated?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may recall.
Thank you, Judge.
And I'm still under oath.
Ms. Muntean, I just had one clarifying question to ask. Where were you in the car? Where were you driving when the defendant shot you in your leg?
We were on southbound 75, past 8 Mile, I believe.
Okay. If you're past 8 Mile on southbound 75, do you know what city you're in?
That's Detroit,
Do you know what county that is?
Wayne County.
Okay. Nothing else, Judge.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, ma'am, you may step down. You may call your next witness.
Judge, the people call Officer Kolar.
You may.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony or allowed to give in the matter pending before this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Officer Dan Kolar of the Grosse Pointe Park Public Safety Department.
And how long have you been working with the Grosse Pointe Public Safety Department?
21 years.
Okay. I want to take your attention back to March 23rd of this year. Were you working on that day?
Yes.
In what capacity were you working?
I am currently assigned out to the Action Auto Theft unit and was working in a undercover capacity.
Okay. And when you say an undercover capacity, what does that mean?
Plain clothes, unmarked scout car.
Okay. What type of, were you driving a car that day?
Yes.
What type of car were you driving?
It was an older Dodge Ram pickup.
Okay. And did it have any police markings on it at all?
No.
Did you have anything on you that was visible identifying yourself as a police officer?
No.
Okay. Were you working by yourself that day?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to around noon. Were you working around noon on March 23rd?
Yes.
Where were you working?
I was in the area of Lyford and Gilbo, which is between Van Dyke and French Road by City Airport.
Is that in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
The county of Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. What were you doing there?
Patrolling the area. That area is known where stolen cars are dumped, and that's one of the areas that I do frequent, looking for stolen vehicles.
Okay. Do you recall the weather conditions?
It was colder, say 30s, 40s degrees, and overcast.
What type of an area is this that you're patrolling?
It is a vacant area. A lot of, there's no houses, a lot of overgrown lots with trees, almost like a forest. A lot of, trash is dumped in that area.
Okay.
It's very desolate.
Okay. So I'm going to show you what's already in evidence. People's Exhibit 2. Is that the area that you were patrolling?
Yes.
Okay. And People's Exhibit 3. Is this a bird's eye view of that area?
Yes.
Okay. Around noon, when you were on patrol in this area, did something happen that brings you to court today?
Yes.
Did you observe something?
While on patrol, I did observe a vehicle backed into a vacant lot.
Do you recall what type of vehicle it was?
It was a blue Chevy crew cab pickup.
Okay. Do you recall the model, like around the model year? The newer or older?
2000, maybe 2005, 2006.
Okay. And did this draw your attention to that area?
Yes, and that almost the exact same spot last year I recovered a yellow Ford pickup truck that was stolen that was parked almost in the exact same spot.
Okay. Judge, may I approach?
You may.
So I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as People's Proposed Exhibits 19 and 20. Could you take a look at those? Do those fairly accurately depict the truck that you saw backed into the vacant lot you just described for us?
Yes.
Judge, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibits 19 and 20.
So stipulated, Judge.
Very well. Shall be received.
And I'm going to put it up on the screen so if you want to direct your attention up there. Is this what you first saw when you noticed that truck backed into the vacant lot?
Yes.
That's People's Exhibit 19. And Exhibit 20 is a little bit closer. What did you do once you saw this truck?
I had two other crew members that were in the area. I just made a radio broadcast that I found this vehicle and I would be out investigating it.
Why did you do that?
Because it's very suspicious. At the time when I approached it, the hood was open and the driver's side front door was ajar.
Okay. When you say you approached it, did you go all the way up to the truck initially?
I started to drive up, and where in the picture where the tree's at, I pulled just a little bit further past the tree. Between the tree and the there's a fire hydrant right there.
Okay.
And then I observed a white male get out of the driver's side front seat.
Okay. And did he come up to your car?
Yes.
Do you see that man in court today?
Yes.
Could you please point to him and tell us something he's wearing?
He's wearing the light blue tie, like a blue blazer, a green shirt. He has something on his jacket pinned.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness identified the defendant.
No objection, Judge.
And you may continue.
Thank you, Judge. Did he look the same that day that he looks now?
A little different.
Okay. What happened once he came up to your car?
As I sat in my car, he came out and he was waving at me, like had his hands up like this, waving me down.
And was he, I'm sorry, just to be clear, was he walking towards your car?
And he was walking towards my vehicle, yes.
Okay, but you had not gotten out?
No.
Okay. So after he waves his hands at you and is approaching your car, what happens next?
I rolled down my passenger side window and he approached me and asked me for a gallon of gas.
Okay. What was your response?
I was like, you need a gallon of gas, and we kind of went back and forth. He goes, yeah, if you can just drive me to a gas station so I can get some gas.
Okay. What happened next?
And I seen that he had this a gold badge in his left hand. And I asked him if he was a police officer, and he shook his head yes. He didn't verbally say it, but motioned yes, that he was a police officer.
Yes, I'm going to stop you for a second. You said you saw a gold badge in his left hand.
Yes.
Did he show you the badge?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 24. Take a look at that. That look familiar?
Yes.
What is that?
It's the gold badge that he was displaying.
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition as you first observed it on March 23rd, 2016?
Yes.
Judge, people would move to admit what's been pre-marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 24 into evidence as People's Exhibit 24.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Shall be received into evidence.
May I publish, Judge?
Yes, you may.
And the badge says, what does the badge say on it?
Fugitive recovery agent.
Did you ask him about this?
When I asked him if he was a police officer and he motioned yes, he stated he was with the recovery team.
And what was your conversation like after that?
I then identified myself as a police officer with the auto theft unit and displayed my department-issued badge.
And what happened next?
After that, I got out of my vehicle and I walked around to the front of it to where he was at. And again, asked him, why he was here.
What
And
was his response?
he said he was here to pick up his girlfriend who was beat up.
Okay, at this point, had you seen anybody else?
No.
Okay. What did you do after he told you that he was there to pick up his girlfriend who had just gotten beat up?
I asked him for more proper identification, in which he did not have any on him, and he had to go to his truck to retrieve it.
Okay. What happened once he came back from the truck?
When he went to the truck, that's when I was watching him, I can see the silhouette of somebody in the passenger seat. When he came back, he presented me with a Michigan medical marijuana card as identification.
Okay. And what did you do next?
He also indicated that he had a CPL to carry a handgun, and he lifted up his shirt to display a blue steel automatic that was tucked in his waistband.
After you saw this gun, what did you do?
He just briefly sprung up his shirt and then put it back down, and that's when I picked up the shirt myself and grabbed the gun, told him to sit down. I secured the gun in my truck, and then I placed him in handcuffs for officer safety.
You did what for officer safety? I'm sorry.
I placed the defendant in handcuffs for officer safety.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes, you may.
If the gun is empty, the magazine is separate. And Judge, for the record, I did provide this to the deputy to make safe.
Very well.
Could you please place those on? Can you take a look at that? Without pulling it all the way out.
Yep.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
It was the blue steel automatic that I took from his waistband.
Okay. And is it in the same or substantially the same condition that it was in when you took it from its waistband on March 23rd?
It was loaded with one in the chamber.
Okay. And it's not loaded now?
It's not loaded. I mean, it's made safe now.
Okay. Judge, is there anything else in the bag?
Yeah, the clip to go with it and the ammunition.
And that was, you were saying that's all
That was all together, yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 25.
No objection.
Shall be received into evidence.
Thank you, Judge. You want to, don't take those off yet. Can you please take it out? And can you hold it up for the jury? Thank you. Can you take out? You said there was one in the chamber. How many bullets are still in the magazine? You can take them out if you need.
I mean, I'm just counting. It looks like we're at 6.
Thank you. And what's the capacity of the magazine?
It's 8-round capacity.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you. After you placed the defendant in handcuffs for officer safety, what did you do next?
As I did that, I did notice that his hands were stained red The front of his blue jeans were stained red. He had a gray jacket on that had red spots on it.
Based on those observations, what was your thought at that point in time?
Something wasn't lining up. Something wasn't right.
Judge, may I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you People's Proposed Exhibits 21, 22, and 23. Can you take a look at those? Do those fairly and accurately depict the defendant
Yes.
as you saw him on March 23rd?
Yes.
Judge, I'd move to admit People's Exhibits 21, 22, and 23.
Any objection?
I'm sorry, Judge, no objection.
Shall be received.
Is People's Exhibit 21, is that how the defendant looked when you first encountered him?
Yes.
And you were describing that he had blood all over his pants and his jacket, you said on his hands.
Yes.
You can't see his hands in this photo, correct? But you
Yes,
can see his
yeah.
hands. And is this a close-up of his face as you saw him?
Yes.
And those are his pants of People's Exhibit 23?
Yes.
Once he made these observations and felt that something wasn't right, what action did you take?
I asked him where his girlfriend was, and he just motioned over towards the truck.
Did he say anything to you?
And I go, she's in the truck, and then he stated that he did not have to answer any more of my questions because he was in handcuffs.
So what did you do?
I placed him on the sidewalk by my vehicle, and I walked over to the blue pickup truck in the field.
And when you walked over to the pickup truck, what did you observe?
I approached it from the open driver's side door where I saw a badly beaten white female sitting in the passenger seat.
I'm going to show you authority and evidence of People's Exhibit 14. Is this the woman that you saw in the truck?
Yes.
And is that how she looked when you first saw her?
She had more blood on her face, but yes, that's how I saw her.
Did you notice anything about her hands?
She appeared to be covered like in a blanket, and she had her hands up like this, and they were swollen, covered in blood, and had cuts on her hand.
Was she conscious at this point in time?
I asked her if she was okay. She gave an incoherent response. I could not understand what she was saying. And she only looked straight ahead. She never looked at me.
Did you try to move her at all at that point?
Now, at that point, I did go around to the passenger side door and open it up and again try to talk to her, but being the traumatic injury to her head, I didn't want to move her.
You said that she had a blanket. Could you see any part of her body that was exposed?
Her right leg, like I can tell she didn't have any pants on because I can see the bare skin. Again, the blanket covered her and she just had her hands up like that.
What did the interior of the vehicle look like?
It had what appeared to be blood all over it, from the dash to the driver's seat to the middle console to the doors.
Based on all of these observations, what did you do?
At that point, I radioed, I requested a medic and requested more backup, and so within minutes I had numerous scout cars as well as the medic.
And who specifically did you radio for?
I'm with the multi-jurisdictional, so I do have a Detroit radio. I got on with the Detroit dispatch and requested a medic and of my findings, and then I also radioed my partners that were out in the area for assistance.
And did you tell the officers about what you observed?
Yes, I gave a brief description over the radio.
And you said then you requested a medic, and did one eventually arrive?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice whether the woman you saw was handcuffed?
Due to she had her hands up tight with the blanket, I just saw like almost from the wrist up, nothing from the wrist down, the way the blanket was at.
Okay. After you radioed, did you do anything else in the scene? Did you go anywhere?
I kind of positioned myself between the defendant and the blue pickup truck. We were in a very desolate area. I was by myself. I didn't know if anybody else was around, so I kind of positioned myself to kind of keep an eye on, you know, the victim and the defendant.
Did you walk around the scene at all?
After several marked skull cars showed up, I did go around and observed, you know, blood outside the pickup truck.
What else did you observe outside the pickup truck?
Right outside the passenger side door on the ground was a live round of ammunition. From there, being in March, the grass is still kind of brown and dead. You can distinctly see a blood trail that went from like the passenger side door to the back of the pickup truck and went maybe another 20 feet behind the pickup truck, where I did observe like woman's pants with blood on it, blood-soaked underwear, a bra, all behind the truck within like 20 feet.
At some point, did you return to the defendant?
At that point, when the medics showed up, they took over and, you know, took care of her.
And did you go back then to the defendant?
At that point, the defendant did have other Detroit officers watching him. When my boss showed up, I, you know, started talking with him, and then, you know, my chief made that location, so I was talking with him also.
And eventually, did you hand over custody of the defendant to the Detroit Police Department?
Yes.
And did you hand over the gun and the badge to the custody of the Detroit Police Department?
Yes, all the evidence that I found.
Did you do anything else to investigate this case?
No.
Nothing else, Judge?
Cross-examination.
Yes, Judge, thank you. Very briefly. Good afternoon. Is it officer or detective?
Officer?
Officer Kohler?
Yes.
Did, you mentioned Mr. Muntean asked you initially for some gasoline, correct?
Yes.
Did you, was the vehicle running when you approached the vehicle, if you remember?
No.
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to, during your initial investigation, to look at the gas gauge or determine if there was fuel in the vehicle?
No.
Did, when you first encountered the passenger, you described her demeanor, I believe, as just looking straight ahead. Did she cry? Was she hysterical in any way? Did she make any statements like, "Oh, thank God you're here," or anything like that?
No, very lethargic and incoherent speech.
Okay. Were you able to verify to see if Mr. Muntean's carry permit was indeed valid?
He did not have that certificate on him.
Okay, but were you able to, the car that you arrived that day, I imagine, is equipped with something that's hooked up to the Michigan State Police, is that correct? No. No? Okay. So you didn't do any further investigation of whether the CPL was valid?
No.
Okay. The type of weapon, is that a Smith & Wesson M&P?
Yeah, Smith & Wesson 9 caliber.
This is 9mm gun?
Yes.
Okay. And you also mentioned it's, for lack of a better term, eight rounds in the magazine?
And one in the chamber,
and one in the
which would be
chamber.
9.
Okay, so technically that has the, I didn't get a chance, I saw it briefly inside the envelope, but my eyes are not as good as they used to be, so I couldn't see the actual gun. Does that have the extended grip at the bottom?
No.
No?
To extend the magazine? Is that what
Yes.
you're- No.
Yes. So it's flush, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The gun itself, and again, how long have you been a police officer?
21 years.
Okay. So you have extensive experience, and I understand you're in the jurisdiction team dealing with auto theft, and you work undercover, correct?
Yes.
But I'm sure you've done vast array of, is it true you've done a vast array of other jobs since you've been employed as a police officer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're specifically looking at, like what type of job.
I guess specifically I'm asking you, could you tell if a gun has been recently fired?
No.
You found one live round on the ground outside the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And you have no explanation for how that live round got there, correct?
No explanation.
And just so the jury is clear, a live round means it has not been fired or discharged from that weapon through the barrel, correct?
Yes, it's fully intact.
Technically speaking, there are two ways to discharge a live round from that gun. Is that correct? Would you say a safe statement?
As far as...
Without being fired.
Without being fired, yeah, you can eject that round, yes.
You can do it manually by pulling the mechanism out, discharging the round in the chamber, correct?
Yes, pulling the slide back, yes.
Or there's also a button on the left side, I believe, which would also basically unlock that mechanism and thereby discharging the round?
Yes.
Okay. And again, that round that you found on the ground, that was not fired from the gun?
Yeah, it was fully intact.
Okay. So, during your initial investigation, you can't really offer an explanation on how that live round got outside the vehicle, correct?
No.
Okay. After you initially encountered Mr. Muntean at the scene, either approaching that or any time during your investigation or subsequently taking him into custody, did you see Mr. Muntean strike the passenger?
No.
Did you see Mr. Muntean point a weapon or wield a weapon towards the passenger?
No.
Did he make any attempt to conceal either the identity or the condition of the passenger?
No.
Did you personally, and I know there were a lot of people involved, did you personally place that blanket on the passenger?
No.
I don't want you to speculate, so I'm not going to ask, if you had an opinion on how that blanket got there, but you personally didn't put that on there, correct? No. Judge, I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Judge, when the defendant was asking you to go get a gallon of gasoline, did he ever ask you for help for his girlfriend?
No.
Did he ever say that we need EMS, anything like that?
No.
Did he ever mention how severely she was hurt?
No.
Nothing else, Judge.
Just one quick question. Officer, from the time you first encountered Mr. Muntean till the time you had him in handcuffs and detained and arrested, approximately how long did that take?
Minutes.
Would you say under 2 minutes?
I'd say about, 2.
So, isn't it true basically, and I understand why, but as soon as you saw the weapon, whether he had a CPL or not, that's when you placed him for your own safety into the handcuffs, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
All right. You may step down. You may call your next witness.
Judge, the people call Dr. Mike Taylor.
Anyone need a short recess? Well, let's stand for a moment.
Yes. Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. And prior to the start of testimony, I have remarked People's Proposed Exhibit 27 with the certification of medical records for Natalia Muntean. I move that they be admitted.
No objection, Your Honor.
Shall be received.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, I'm Michael Taylor.
And, sir, how are you employed?
I'm a surgeon.
Where are you employed?
I'm self-employed, but I work through St. John's Beaumont Systems.
So you are a doctor?
Yes,
And how long have you been a doctor?
since '84.
Okay. And do you have any special training or experience?
General surgery and trauma,
Okay. Where did you go to school?
Wayne State University.
Both undergrad and medical school?
Undergrad, University of Missouri, Kansas City, and then Oakland University Medical School, Wayne State.
Okay.
Residency, Wayne State.
Okay. When did you finish your residency?
'89.
And have you been practicing since then?
Yes,
What type of surgeon?
I do general and trauma surgery.
And have you had any special training in trauma surgery and general surgery?
Other than what I did during my residency, no.
Judge, I would move to qualify Dr. Taylor as an expert in trauma surgery.
We have no objection to that, Judge.
Very well. Motion granted. You may testify as an expert in that field.
Thank you,
You may
Judge.
continue.
Sir, I want to direct your attention to March 23rd, 2016 in the early afternoon. Were you working that day?
Yes,
And where were you working?
St. John's.
In what capacity were you working?
I believe I was the trauma rounder that day, but I was on call for surgery that day.
And did you have occasion to come in contact with a patient named Natalia Muntean?
Yes, I did.
How did she come into the hospital?
She presented, I believe, through EMS, and it was deemed a level 1 trauma.
Okay. What is a level 1 trauma?
Level 1 is unstable vital signs, certain types of injuries, gunshot wounds to above the knees, extremities, trunk, chest. Anything that's unstable is a level 1.
Okay. And did you go to treat her?
Yes.
Okay. When you saw her, did you make any observations about her?
She was bloodied, bruised, had handcuffs on.
Did anything stick out in your mind about the handcuffs?
The fact that between St. John's Security and the Detroit Police Department, only one of them had a set of keys that would unlock that handcuff.
Okay. Do you know if she was handcuffed by the police?
I do not know that.
What was she treated for? What type of injuries did she have?
She had multiple, well, she had gunshot wound to the lower extremities, two wounds to her left leg, one wound on the inner side of her right leg, and then we presumed a bullet that was palpable on the lateral or the outer side of her right leg.
Okay, when you say palpable, what do you mean?
You could feel an object there, and on X-rays, it confirmed that there was a metallic object there.
Okay. What other injuries did she have?
She had bruising around her left orbit, her eye. I think a laceration to her left cheek. Multiple bruises, basically of various stages. And by that, some of them were more acute. Some looked like they had been there for a while and were resolving. Kind of, as they resolve, they go through kind of a purplish, yellowish, greenish type resolution of the blood that's there. Multiple lacerations and abrasions, kind of all over her body.
And what you use the words lacerations and abrasions. What does laceration mean?
Laceration is like a cut or a deeper injury, and abrasion is more of a scrape or something along those lines.
Okay. What about any more injuries to her facial area?
When we did our imaging studies, she ended up having a left mandible fracture, or a fracture of the jawbone on the left side.
Okay.
She appeared to have an old left 10th rib fracture that was healing. No injuries to the bony injuries or vascular injuries to the legs.
How severe was the fracture to the jaw?
It was completely through the jaw, and it was kind of overriding, so the two pieces of bone were not aligned, but one was over the other one.
And did you refer her to any type of service for that?
She was seen by the oral maxillofacial surgery service for that.
And to your knowledge, did she require surgery?
No, initially they thought she was going to, but As they evaluated her, they felt that she was stable for non-operative management, and they were going to follow up as an outpatient with her.
Did you also run some toxicology tests?
Yes, those were done.
And what did those find?
I believe she was positive for benzodiazepines and opiates.
What is benzodiazepine?
Along the line of Valium.
And give us an example of opiates.
Opiates would be could be morphine, Dilaudid, some type of a narcotic.
Okay. Is it possible that she could have had the opiate through EMS or when she first came in to the hospital?
It's a possibility, yes.
But you can't say for sure?
I can't say for sure,
Okay.
no.
With all of the injuries, what type of treatment did she receive?
She had lacerations of her scalp and I think face, sutured, irrigated out her gunshot wound to the legs.
And did she have to have any surgery on the gunshot wound?
No, no.
Did you have any conversations with her?
Outside of when she initially presented to the ER.
Did she tell you anything about this being a suicide pact or anything like that?
I don't recall her directly telling me that, no. But I know that through conversations with other physicians who were in the emergency room at the time, that had come up, but I don't remember her directly telling me.
Then did she tell you who inflicted these injuries upon her?
I know, specifically, I cannot recall who she said. The story was that it was her husband, but I don't specifically remember her telling me that.
Okay. And it's in the medical records and they would speak for themselves?
Yes, yes.
One moment, Judge.
You may.
Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Judge, thank you. Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Doctor, the prosecutor has placed on the record what your credentials are, and I associate and myself have agreed that you're certainly an expert in your field. Just one question regarding that. Are you board certified?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be a fair statement for me to say it's impossible for you to, with any degree of certainty, tell how the complaining witness was shot or who shot her, just based on her injuries? Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Would it also be a fair statement to say you couldn't tell if the wound was due to a self-infliction or it was due to a struggle of some sort? That's a correct statement, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
You basically just treated her injuries.
Yes.
So would it be safe to say that you are, for lack of a better term, you're like the frontline guy that when somebody comes in with a trauma of this nature, that's typically your role, is to assess what's going on, and then either do you directly treat the patient, or would this be something that you'd make an observation and then call in other individuals to handle the injury?
I would directly treat her and also call in other individuals based on other specialties that would be necessary for her treatment.
And that's what you did in this case, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You mentioned the injury to the jaw.
Yes.
Can you, with any degree of certainty, tell us how old that injury may have been? Is that something that would fall within your realm of expertise?
It was more of an acute injury than a chronic injury.
And how would you make that determination?
There was no callus formation on the x-rays, so this happened relatively recently.
Did you personally observe the x-rays?
Yes.
Okay. And that's something within your credentials? Wouldn't a radiologist be looking at the x-ray?
Yes, they would as well.
Okay. So another person did have the opportunity to look at that?
Correct.
Okay. The toxicity testing that was done, how was that typically administered? That's by blood, right?
This was, I believe, a urine drug screen.
Okay. So it wasn't done as a blood sample as somebody would typically receive in a hospital?
I believe it was urine.
Okay. If you know, based on your experience and credentials, is a urine test as accurate as a blood test?
I believe they're very comparable.
I see. Did you personally do the analysis of the urine?
No, that's done in the lab.
Someone else in the lab
Yes.
did that. When you, I think you referred to benzodiazepam.
Yes, benzodiazepines.
That could be Valium, Xanax, something of that nature.
In that realm of
That
drugs,
realm?
yes.
Typically, what would if you were to prescribe that to somebody, what would it typically be used for?
As an anti-anxiety type drug.
Okay. That was found in the complaining witnesses system.
Yes, that was.
Do you know if those levels elevated well beyond what you typically see?
They were elevated, but I can't tell you what we typically see. I mean,
Sure. But people do, in your experience, people do use it recreationally or abusively, correct?
yes, they do.
The opiates, now that can run, and I believe you mentioned on direct examination, that can pretty much run a very vast gamut of potential drugs, correct?
Yes.
Could be Oxycontin, oxycodone, Vicodin, those are all opiates?
Those are all opiates, but they all have their own different tests that they can run on those specifically, I believe.
Would that be commonly known as and again, this would be blood work, so a 7 or 8, 9, 10 panel drug screen. That wasn't done in this case, correct?
This was a random urine drug screen.
I see. So can you tell with any degree of certainty what exactly the opiate was?
I'm not certain. I mean, the lab tests are there.
I
and
see.
They
I
basically,
understand. Do you know, you personally, and these may be questions more appropriate for a lab technician or someone that actually analyzed the blood, but do you know, were there any commonly known as street drugs discovered during the testing?
I don't recall.
Okay. So cocaine, marijuana, heroin, anything like that, it's just something that you're not privy to or you just don't recall it?
I don't recall.
Okay. Can the ingestion of a drug such as heroin, or you did mention morphine as well, can that, under a microscope or under observations, can that be very close to or replicate a opiate that we've already discussed? Like, can it be actually heroin but appear to be Vicodin?
I would say no.
You'd say that. And what is that based on? Just your...
I mean, they do special gas chromatography and spectral analysis of
I
all
see.
these drugs, and so they all have their own fingerprint.
And that wasn't done in this case, as far as you know?
I believe it was done for
Okay.
these. Yes.
All right, thank you for your time. I'm out.
Redirect.
Just briefly, please. When Ms. Muntean came in to the emergency room, what was your priority in treating her?
Basically making sure that her, what we call ABCs of airway, breathing, circulation, assessing her for her immediate life-threatening injuries, and then going through a secondary survey where we do our complete evaluation, get imaging studies, send off labs.
Nothing else, Judge.
Very fast, Judge. So, that being said, the prosecutor asked you a question regarding what your priorities were. Why was she given a drug test then, if you know?
We do those on pretty much everybody as a trauma panel. So we send off blood for CBC, type and screen, electrolytes, drug screens on pretty much everybody that comes in as a trauma patient.
Is that something to protect yourself or the patient, or both?
I would say it's probably more the patient.
I see. It's correct me if I'm wrong, it strikes me that it seems as though a urine screen on a level 1 trauma patient is more intrusive, or I guess the person has to participate more directly, not to be crass, but they basically have to pee in a cup, correct?
Or we get it when we put a Foley catheter in to
Or
decompress
I
the
was going to
bladder.
say, or a catheter, correct?
Yes.
Do you know which method was used to collect this specimen?
I don't recall.
Okay. So it's not just something that maybe you have a suspicion or someone that is involved in her care. This is typically done anybody that's brought in on a level 1.
Any trauma patient, I would say we do a random drug screen on, yes.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Judge, thank you.
Doctor, you may step down.
Thank you.
Let me call your next witness.
Judge, people call EMT Sarah Shoeboy.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give and the matter pending before this court is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. First name Sarah, last name R-A-H, last name Shoeboy, S-H-U, B-O-Y. Shoeboy, like people, correct?
Thank you. If you want to pull that microphone closer to you.
That
You
good?
may proceed.
Thank you,
All right.
Judge. And Judge, prior to Ms. Shoeboy beginning her testimony, I have what's been pre-marked People's Proposed Exhibit 26. It's a true copy of Ms. Shoeboy's medical record, and it is certified, so I would move for its admission.
No objection, Judge.
Shall be received.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ma'am. Could you please state your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
I am Sarah Shoeboy.
And Ms. Shoeboy, how are you employed?
I work for Universal Ambulance.
And what is your job?
I am an EMT.
What does EMT mean?
Emergency Medical Technician.
Okay. And do you have to have some type of special training to be an EMT?
Yes, I did go to school for 2 semesters to be an EMT.
And what are part of your duties and responsibilities as an EMT?
Well, I respond to 911s. I give patient care, do a lot of transports to the hospital.
Okay. And so are you trained to take vitals and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. And to treat patients who have suffered some type of trauma or any reason that you might get called out?
Yes.
Okay. I want to direct your attention back to March 23rd, 2016. Were you working that day?
I was.
In the early to late afternoon hours?
Yes.
Were you working by yourself or with a partner?
I was working with my regular partner,
And who's your regular partner?
Justin Kidd.
Okay. Around 12:30 p.m., did you receive a run to Lyford and Gilbo in the city of Detroit, County of Wayne?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you go to that location?
I did.
What did you do once you got there?
Got there, got out of the truck, and officer was there, told us that he was undercover, stopped, checked out something, and there's someone in the truck that needs our attention.
Okay. Do you see the officer who said he was undercover, do you see him in court today?
I don't believe so.
Okay. What happened did you go to the truck then?
Yes.
Okay. What happened once you got?
Well, we grabbed our stuff out of, he said it was bad, that's all we know. We grabbed jump bag, stretcher, oxygen, all the basic things we bring into normal calls.
What is a jump bag?
Jump bag is a big old bag that's filled with a bunch of supplies as far as bandages, ice packs, different tubes for breathing, BVM, OB kits, trauma dressings. Anything that you can really need immediately on scene to give patient care is going to be in a jump bag.
Okay. So you took all of this up to the truck. What color was the truck?
Looking back, I can't say.
Okay. Would looking at a picture refresh your reflection?
Yes. I have so many scenes, so many calls,
I'm going to show you what's already in evidence as People's Exhibit 4. Take a look at that.
Yes.
Is that the truck that you approached?
This is the truck.
Thank you.
Went around to the other side.
Okay. Which side did you go to?
Passenger side.
Okay. When you got there, what did you observe?
When I went to the passenger side, there was a female sitting in the passenger seat.
Did you learn her name?
Not at this time, no. First thing I realized from her was very extensive facial trauma. Side of her face was beaten in, couldn't really see one of her eyeballs. I really took my breath back looking at her. then I noticed she didn't have any pants or underwear on. She was naked from the waist down. She had a blanket, towel or something wrapping around trying to keep her warm. It was very cold out.
Was her skin warm or cold?
Very cold at the touch. Very white in coloring.
You were, I interrupted you. You were describing what you observed about her. What else did you observe after you observed the blanket around her?
The blanket was around her, just her eye and her, I was worried about airway and issues like that. I was trying to talk to her and see if she was alert without much facial damage, She was alert, very, very soft-spoken, very quiet. And she just seemed, very scared. I'm trying to tell her that, I'm here for you, that's why I'm here. Like, what can I do to help you? Trying to assess her A&O, which is, see if she's alert and oriented.
What is A&O?
Alert is A and O is oriented.
Okay.
It's how we tell if a patient is fully with it. You ask questions like person, place, time, and event, like who's the president, how many quarters are in a dollar. Questions like that people in their right state of mind should know.
Okay. Was she able to
She was.
answer those?
Yes.
Okay. And was she later identified as Natalia Muntean?
Yes.
Did you observe anything about her wrist?
On scene, no. On scene, well, I checked them out when I got her in the truck. First, we stood her up, grabbed a blanket from the truck, and I wrapped it around. Tried to keep her, covered. A lot of male on scene. I was the only other female there with her, so I was obviously lead. So I covered her up, and then when we got her back to the truck, after we got her out, that's when I do my trauma assessment. That's when I'm checking her wrist and her legs and everything. And I pulled down the blanket a little bit right here, checked out, make sure she had nothing there. And then I pulled down from here and checked right here, but I did not take it away completely and see visually due to her being so cold, trying to keep her warm, cranking up that heat.
Did you notice that she had handcuffs on her wrist?
I did not. I did not realize that until we were at the hospital and the hospital told me.
Okay. And you didn't place those handcuffs on her?
No.
Okay. Did you notice anything about her legs?
Yes.
What did you notice?
When I pulled away the blanket, check out her legs, I saw this. She had like a hole right here, and it was kind of bloody, very minimal bleeding. And so, I see it again on the inside of her leg here, and I'm just thinking like, what happened? Then I rotate around her leg the other way, and I see this little teeny hole right along here where it was a gunshot wound. Went in through this leg, out, and appeared to go, I'm not, a surgeon or anything, but did appear to go right into this leg, and there was no exit wound here.
Okay.
They were not bleeding.
Okay. But you mentioned that was there blood anywhere?
There was blood, yes. There was blood on scene. There was, blood around her legs, but they weren't bleeding like a gunshot wound because she was so cold. She didn't have pedal pulses. She didn't have radial pulses.
When you say pedal pulses and radial pulses, what is that?
The different pulses in your body, your radial pulses right here.
And for the record, you're
pedal
indicating
pulse.
to your left wrist.
Yes.
Okay, and then go on.
Same thing, other side. Then you have your
radial
pedal.
is wrist or arm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Radial is wrist.
Okay.
And then with being that cold, your body wants to shunt all of the blood and everything to your core to keep your, your organs preserved and everything. So a lot of times you won't get the pulses when people are very cold or if there's very low blood pressure, multiple reasons.
Okay.
And so she did not have any pedal pulses. There was not a lot of blood flow going, which would make sense why there was not a lot of blood.
Okay. Did you observe any duct tape anywhere?
I did.
Where
She
did
did.
you observe duct tape?
She had duct tape on her right thigh.
Just wrapped around her right thigh?
There was a piece on it. I didn't really notice any really wrapped around. I did notice there was duct tape on a rock and on the ground, which was pretty close to the car. In the area, there's some in the car. Just a bunch of random pieces.
Okay. What were her vital signs like at the time?
Vital signs. I couldn't really obtain too many. I couldn't get a blood pressure on her because I didn't have her radial pulse. That's what we'll check, we'll put the stethoscope on the brachial and that's what you'll hear. Or you can do an over-palp and that's when, you pop up the cuff, you'll squeeze your arm and then you'll feel the pulse right here and then, once it comes back, that's how you get it. There was no pulse, so it wasn't coming back, so I could not obtain a blood pressure. I'm not going to remember her vitals just off the tip of my head. I know I couldn't get a blood pressure and I know I couldn't get an SpO2 rating.
Would they be in your report?
The blood pressure and the SpO2 would not be, everything else would be.
Would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
Yes. You can't obtain a SpO2 with hands that cold.
What is an SpO2?
It's a pulse ox reading. It measures the amount of oxygen in your blood.
Okay.
Normal person's between 94 and 99%.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's in evidence of People's Exhibit 26 is your report. Take a look at that. Tell me if it refreshes your recollection as to her vitals.
Yeah, it shows a Glasgow Coma Scale, 15.
What does that mean?
That is just a scale that they use to kind of, it's measured in 3 different sections. Eye-opening, motor response, verbal. Again, it's kind of goes hand in hand with the A&O, seeing how much they are with it. The maximum score you can get, all of us in here today, are going to be a GCS of 15. The lowest you could get would be a 3. This chair itself is considered a 3.
Okay.
Can't go any lower.
Okay.
And then also has our temperature on here. I got 81 degrees.
That was her body temperature,
Yes.
was 81 degrees?
Yes.
Okay.
So cold. Very cold to the touch. Pulse, I have, the first one I had was 120, and the second one I have is 114. Both a little elevated, nothing I'm too concerned about. And again, I don't have a blood pressure in here. Respiration is a 14, it's within normal limits.
Okay. Based on your observation of Ms. Muntean, what did you do?
My main focus was definitely keeping her warm when I was getting her out of the truck. When we were in the truck, we did not know that she had been shot at that time. She did not tell us. Wasn't no blood running down her legs, so we weren't able to see. Again, I stood her up. I, wrapped up her body in that blanket. Helped her to my stretcher, and then that concern, just keeping her warm, blankets, because she's already 81 degrees. Just trying to keep her warm. And then when we get out to the truck, and then, I do the further, I realize that the gunshots. Obviously, I wrapped those up. But mainly just keeping her warm, because that was the most critical issue at that time. And just, couldn't get a blood pressure on her, so wasn't much I could do there. I'm a basic unit. I don't have IVs. I don't have a drug box on me. I couldn't run a line, so just keep her warm and get her there fast.
Did she tell you that she had taken Valium?
She did.
Did she tell you that she had taken LSD?
She did not tell me that. I was told that at the hospital along with the handcuffs.
Okay. Did she ever tell you how long she had been in that field?
No, she was very, very quiet. There's quite a few questions I asked her, and she just either wasn't answering, or the answer she was giving me was just kind of didn't make much sense to me at that time.
Okay. Did you take her to the hospital?
I did take her to the hospital.
What hospital did you take her to?
St. John, Maine. Closest appropriate facility.
Did she receive treatment there?
Yes, I called her in priority 1, gunshot, called it in over our radio so they all know that we're coming. Multiple doctors, whole staff, everyone waiting for me there. Pretty much handed her over as soon as I got there, because it was just so chaotic that I went off and did my report, and they took her over from there.
Okay. Nothing else, Judge?
Just briefly, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where did you say that you observed a strip or a piece of duct tape? Did you say on the thigh area?
Yes.
Thigh, right or left? Do you remember?
Right thigh.
Right thigh. Okay. If one was to render first aid, or I don't know, maybe even in your course of your emergency training, and someone was to place a tourniquet to stop bleeding, where would that typically be placed? On the wound or above it?
It depends where, proximal to the wound, above the wound.
So it would be above the wound, not on
Yes.
it, correctly?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Prosecuting attorney asked you regarding the placement of handcuffs, and pretty sure you responded that you yourself didn't notice either the presence of handcuffs or an injury conducive to handcuffs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Someone else told you? Or you
Yes.
found out later, correct?
Yes.
Okay. After you were told this by someone, that handcuffs may have been involved or not, whatever you were told, did you go and do a further examination, or by that time were you out of the picture?
I was out of the picture at that time.
Okay. And how long have you been employed in your current capacity, whether it's with this company or just in general?
I've been an EMT for over 2 years now.
Okay. So, are you primarily assigned to the city of Detroit, or do you work in all other areas?
90% of the time I am a contracted 911 truck through the city of Detroit.
So you've seen your share of gunshot wounds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen drug overdoses?
Yes.
Many?
Yes.
Did you have any suspicion or course of treatment to deal with, in this specific case, with any potential drug, either overdose or interactions that you noticed?
Can you clarify that question a little more for me?
Did the person look like they had been taking any drugs, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, there is no way for me to tell. I've never dealt with someone that's gone through so much before, so unknown if she's brainwashed, unknown if she was on something. I could not tell you. I'm not a psychologist.
Right. So basically you arrived well after the fact of anything that potentially could have happened, correct?
I mean, the scene was secured by police when I got there.
Right. I guess that's what I was asking. Did you state that you took her, I know you took her vital signs, did you say her body temperature was 80 degrees?
81 degrees is the temperature I got through my... You would have to check with the hospital records. They'll probably be able to provide maybe a more accurate one since they have much better equipment than we are provided on our trucks.
I don't have any of the training, medical training or experience that you have, but isn't 80 degrees, I mean, isn't that hypothermic? I mean, somebody's on a borderline with
80, that would be considered hypothermic, yes.
If you remember, was it extremely cold outside that day?
It was definitely cold outside. It was wet. It was cold.
Okay.
She was, without a doubt, by my professional opinion, hypothermic.
Okay. Is that what you would attribute this low body temperature to?
What do you mean by that?
Her body temperature was so low because it was so cold outside, correct?
I mean, possibly being outside in the cold without pants and underwear. I mean, that'll definitely bring you, especially being out there for a long time.
Snow was there snow on the ground, if you remember?
I don't recall.
Okay. I have no further questions, Judge.
All right. Redirect.
Nothing else, Judge.
You may step down. You may call your next witness.
We will call Officer Martin. And Judge, may the prior witness be excused for the day?
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge. And may Ms. Muntean also be excused? She's been waiting. Can I let her go for the day as long as she's on call, subject to being recalled by myself for defense?
There's no objection, Judge.
Thank
Very
you.
well.
Sorry, sir.
Oh, it's my fault, sorry.
Okay. Judge, Officer Martin, I believe, stepped out for a brief moment.
You have another one, short recess.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.